For more, Simon McGregor-Wood is in Moscow. He joins us now live. Hi, Simon. So we understand that Russia has not received the samples that they requested, but help us better understand their position here, because in spite of the ultimatums and now the punitive measures, why doesn't Moscow just issue a more detailed response to back up their denial?
Well, they say they are working on one, Andrea, as we heard there from Maria Zakharova. They will get back to us once they have worked out exactly how they're going to respond. I think it's a little bit too early for us to read anything into the fact that there's been some kind of delay. I think a lot of people were expecting Ms. Zakharova to outline specifics on who was going to be kicked out in retaliation. She didn't do that, but I don't think that necessarily leads to believe that the Russians are pulling back from doing that. I think most of the smart analysis here expects them still to draw up an equivalent list of British diplomats that they will in due course kick out in response. But there was plenty of colourful invective. Ms. Zakharova is a well-known attack dog of the foreign ministry. She's a star of social media. She's on television very regularly espousing the line from the Kremlin. And she picked up pretty much where she's left off on this press briefing, talking about the UK hiding the evidence. She was asked by one journalist, Andrea, is this now a dangerous situation? She said, this is truly dangerous. Head of a nuclear state, referring to Prime Minister Theresa May, accusing Russia of aggression, issuing 20-hour ultimatums. They are detached from reality. And then she repeated her accusation that the British are treating this as some kind of bizarre circus show. It's a well-coordinated but very aggressive pushback to what the British are saying.
But ultimately then, Simon, we can just look forward to tit-for-tat measures here.
Well, I'm not sure anyone's looking forward to it. I do think that there are real echoes here, to use an overused analogy, to the Cold War. There are people saying here that it is as bad as it was, if not worse then. There's been a briefing by one of Putin's trusted advisors, Yevgeny Primakov. He was talking to a British newspaper today saying it's worse than the Cold War, because at least in the Cold War there were some rules. And he is saying that in this present atmosphere with the British, in the Russian view, behaving so aggressively and irresponsibly with these accusations, it feels more dangerous. So I think it's part of the rhetorical response, but clearly I think we will for sure get some kind of retaliation. The Russian ambassador, in London yesterday was very clear that we should expect a similar number of British diplomats to be kicked out of Moscow in the next week or so. It does feel like the Cold War. It's not yet clear how far each side wants to take it.
And it's not just the political and diplomatic implications here, Simon. We're also just hearing now, I'm not sure if you're aware, that the Russian energy minister is hearing that the UK may actually reduce Russian gas imports. Now that turns into economic warfare as well.
Well, it was something that Theresa May implied in the House of Commons yesterday. I thought that there would be unspecified measures. One of the weaknesses of the British and the Europeans in general in standing up to what they see as these Russian acts of misbehaviour has been their reliance on Russian gas. It's certainly true of countries like Germany and Italy, and has explained in the past some of their reluctance to get sufficiently tough with the Russians. The British are engaged in importing a reasonable amount of liquid natural gas from Russia. It's a new supply. If that is confirmed and stands up to some checking, that would be a significant economic move against the Russians, hitting them where it hurts, you might say. That's something that some of the critics of the Kremlin have been urging the British to do, to start hurting the people around Putin, the big economic interests with whom he is reliant to stay in power. This might be the opening salvo of a rather more serious economic response from the Brits.
Okay. Simon McGregor-Wood joining us live there from Moscow. Thanks so much for that.